Hi.
Thank you. Hopefully this gives you a chance to collect your thoughts as we continue. I hope this is okay that we're reminiscing a bit.
No problem.
And yeah,
The
you're
con-
able to think about some of the things that shaped your thinking and kind of the things that you just almost subconsciously and consciously live by. So you were talking about being a teenager.
Yeah. So I guess now that you're talking about it, engaging in volunteer activities. Probably that's the best ever opportunity I got in my life. As a teenager, around us. And again, if you want to look at the positive outcome of being in such a restricted, oppressive, a scary environment, talk about it. In the 70s, in order to survive, again, part of our community's resilience, an occupation, no authority, no government, nothing. We live under a military occupation. Services needed to continue. My father, as I said, was a doctor. He was working under the Israeli, of course, control of all the hospitals and so on. He had his private. My mom went on strike. But what happened is, in order for the community to survive, the whole concept of volunteerism, which is rooted in the Palestinian culture, but like over 100 years ago, if you look back, Palestinians used to like during the olive picking season, everybody goes to help everybody. Like if there is a family that doesn't have, so it's not an extended family, and they need to pick their olives, the entire village, they called it Auna. Auna means help, helping others. And so I grew up seeing my grandmother also in the village, not the other educated grandmother, the one in the village, because that's what we have. We are a family that owned, we're feudalists, so much of olive trees. They go and help the poor families in the community in picking their olives and pressing their olives and getting and promote selling. It's like, what? Okay. Why are the people going to pick up the olives of the others, not their own? Then you are 12, you're 13, you start hearing of initiatives. The Israelis are, our town, our city of Nablus, very highly educated people, very also economic center and so on. They really suffocated the municipality. The first ever volunteer activity I had was joining young people who decided they're going to clean the streets of the city and all the public. And I loved it. I went and signed up. You're like the daughter of Dr. Jamal, and with your broom cleaning the streets every Friday, every Friday. And then going to the hospitals. And I was like afraid that my father will see me. What is he gonna tell the other doctors? His eldest daughter, only daughter, is coming to clean. He was so proud of me. He brought everybody, all the other doctors. Look what she's doing. And it became something I was like bragging about, that I am part of the volunteers. And they were called the volunteering committees. Within a year, I was an organizer. Within 2 years, I was leading the entire volunteer, by age 15. And it's not just, the cleaning becomes controlling the traffic, from controlling the traffic becomes supporting the elderly. From every day, we would come up with an initiative. And anybody that you would meet that was part of that era, where we engage in that voluntary work, it changed us profoundly. It was no more about, my dream is to get a big degree and work and make a lot of money. My dream is to become equipped to do this service in a better way, rather than to make an. I am the daughter of this, and my last name is this and that. Who cares? You are a volunteer working with people who come from different backgrounds, carrying the same broom, do- doing the same cleaning, doing the same job, eating the same food, which was we all insisted it would be very, very basic, called it takashufi. What is the word for takashufi in Arabic? No fancy, yeah, nothing fancy. You learn how to sit on the floor and eat with people from different backgrounds, discuss, laugh, cry. Those 3, 4 years until I finished my high school were the reason I am who I am. And I always tell everybody, my family that encouraged that, supported, provided me with the resources, the tools, and so on, and then gave me the space to engage. And I always say a very critical reason for Palestinians' resilience is this grounding, this of the value of volunteerism. One of these days, we'll sit and tell you how it evolved with time, how we survived the first uprising, how we formed all of these committees over the years, women committees, youth committees, agriculture support committees, medical committees, all based on volunteers. Of course, it got politicized with time and structured and so on. But literally, I want to write a book about how that era contributed to our resilience as people under occupation and changed us individually and collectively. When we lost it with the Palestinian Authority, when it came in the 90s, that's another talk, we started going back. The ones who held on it, like me and a few of my colleagues, we said, we grew up in that era. That's what's going to keep us alive. That's going to, reshape our future. And we want this to be the foundation of our future country. We want these values that we acquired, that we practiced, that saved our lives to continue with us. Now, we didn't succeed to make it continue at the community level, collectively, for multiple reasons. Literally, it requires research and studying what happened with the Palestinian Authority and how sometimes governments undermine civil structures that are more important than government structures. Because those are specifically in a case like us, like Palestinians, because it's easy to cut the head or to undermine the head. But it's not that easy to undermine the foundation. The foundation, as a civil engineer, when it is your community structure, when it is your individuals who believe in this and contribute to the, let's say, shaping of these community structures, they're solid. Nobody can shake them. They can probably
Anna,
ignore their presence, but
I
so
have
product
to
of that.
I have to kind of just change my script here to ask you, fast forward, right? If there was, would you see the strength of discovering each other at the community level, serving each other at the community level? Do you see opportunities for those experiences in the world today? Is there an opportunity how would we kind of build such a foundation in today's world? What what are your thoughts?
Funny, because we were talking about it last night. I was watching this interview, the comedy night shows with Steve Colbert and Mamdani, this young Muslim candidate for the mayorship of, and he was with his rival, a Jewish American candidate, and you have to see it. I mean, these two guys hit it on. And I was looking at Mamdani, I'm telling Nasser, look, grassroots work. Eh? He kept on referring to an initiative with taxi drivers and so on, where he organized and went on a hunger strike and managed to get $450 million for tax. Anything, whatever is that story, irrelevant. The story is you see these young stars. I mean, don't know the guy very well, but He kept on saying, why was he there? Because he served, he contributed, he linked with the underprivileged. He tried to help the underprivileged. I don't know if he comes from a privileged background, seems not very much, but immigrant parents and so on. So working very hard and so on, but he found himself engaged in that community where fast forward 7 years, look where he is, whether he succeeds in the US context. But in the US context, I don't see an alternative. The next 20 years, I don't see. In the global, I don't see an alternative. The next 20 years are so critical to the world. But there are different tools now for organizing that could, there are different tools for outreach. They would probably have this new generation, if they engage, organize, believe in these values and see it, imagine the impact they could have, the reach they could have. Because in my case, to mobilize 20 volunteers, I had to go home to home, convincing the parents. And here, my daughter's going like, we're going to do this. Suddenly they have 500 volunteers, with them to do whatever. Like, how did you get that? Oh, mom. Yes,
Yeah.
there is chance. Definitely there is. And I don't see an alternative. If we want to leave this world to be led by mad and narcissist individuals with agendas that serve God knows who, and let the process continue. If not, if we want to really survive this, and the reason Palestine had to do that, because we had a gap. The underprivileged, no services. Somebody had to do something about it. The globe is facing that. A first world country like the US is facing that. I keep on telling my colleagues in global communities, look inside, look internally. The good old days of this, white North colonialist mentality now, post-colonialist mentality that we want to help the South are over. Okay? Help yourselves. Let's just help yourselves. Because without you helping yourselves, we're going to stay in this shit for a long time. So yes, I think really there is a chance, and we don't want to put so much on our youth. And I'm not too familiar with how technology or how AI can change the world, but either we go back and say, okay, humanity to survive needs one, two, three, and goodness of humanity is a core factor in survival to be
Yeah.
good.
And it's the game changer right now in a world where we are still, for some reason, looking to these few people who are materialistic and versus values driven. Like now you're giving an example of an opposite, and also Barack Obama started as a community organizer. So this is leading me to my last question, which is for you, which is on your journey, what capacities that you've just described need to be built, were built at the community level, at the individual level? And by the way, you mentioned this was a joyful time for you. So like, it's not like this was a hardship. This was like needed, but it was also something you loved, and you showed up there completely out of your own volition, right? So it kind of, it works on itself. Once you get engaged, it's like, it's its own path. At what stage in your career were you recognized for some of these qualities? And what institutions, or was it people that were recognizing, and what were they recognizing that led to you to then, be who you are today?
A lot of young girls and young females ask me that question. Okay, you've done all of that, but many of us do it, but they're not seen, they're not recognized, they don't go to the next step. To the contrary, they fall into that same space, and with time they get very frustrated and feel very angry. To the contrary, that we wasted our lives rather than this contributed for us. We didn't get the chance to become rich, or here comes the the opportunities. When you put yourself as the opportunity creator now, that one door needs to open. And in my case, I was lucky because it got recognized early on by one opportunity that unfortunately didn't come from my own people, came from a UN director who it just took him one dinner to say, okay, something is different here. I'll just tell you shortly. I came back from the US, immediately got again engaged in looking for a job, looking for a job. Who will hire a 22, 23-year-old woman engineer, civil structural engineer to go on sites with all these contractors? No, zero experience, doesn't even speak the engineering language locally. In any case, but with ideas, nobody cared about my ideas at the beginning. At one dinner, one person hears you with your excitement talking about what you've been doing. It has nothing to do with the job and decides, I don't need the technical experience. I need the inspirational passion, that sense of commitment, that sense of ability to think outside the box and say, I'm going to give her an opportunity. And I got the job with the UN. And the applicants were 20 years experience, 15 years experience, males, 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 males. And I always, may he rest in peace, I asked him, Nikita, I said, why? Years after, 7 years after, why? He said, if you can't recognize a star, you're not a leader. He was very tough. He was Greek, Egyptian. Imagine the combination. You're not a leader. I saw the star. And was very tough on me, made me cry so many times, but it was part of my training and part of my we tried many times. But that one opportunity. Then literally I'll have to say, uh, the magic here is not to be frustrated when you're not recognized. You don't do it for recognition. When you don't, it's just if it opens for you the opportunity to open opportunities for the other. And you're happy with that. When you fall into nobody noticed that. I've had this discussion with my brother. He's also organizing this major cleaning campaign, trying to bring volunteerism back to our town. I don't live there anymore. And he's like, the municipality is not helping. I said, are you doing it for the municipality to help? You're reviving something me and you grew up in. Be happy with that. When he was happy with that, because he was so frustrated. And he ran for elections and he didn't win. He was so frustrated, and it took me 6 months to treat his psyche until he's back now. It's like exciting. So I think in my case, and I'll stop there, that one opportunity, but it gave me a huge platform. That platform, when you work with the UN and you're serving your people from the north to the south, from east to west, brings you back to the community. It was the job I had. One. Two, approaching it with full humbleness, because I see other colleagues, UN staff, and I don't go down to these communities. They come to me. I enter the office of that person. I hit the door. I'm the donor. I saw that. But what helped me is like, what is that? These are tools. These are tools. And life is not about your tools. Time and time, you end up doing one initiative after the other. Sorry, I keep on saying the last word. One thing that surprised me, even as a woman, there is a certain stage, specifically in our culture, when you achieve so much and you're leading so much and you're already in the front row. In our culture, you have to sit in the front row in any meeting. They reserve a chair for you. And a chair is reserved for you. But most of the time you insist that you're going to sit with the people. I'm sorry. Oh, but Madame Lana, your chair is here. Oh, please, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So keeping that humbleness always, for my case, And I think people see
Yeah.
it, that you're not suddenly separated because you've got all of these positions. And the magic starts there. They welcome you with the ideas, with the support, with the commitment, with the recognition that you want, you know. You hear it from an old lady or from a young woman, and that's more than happy and satisfying. Yani, I think what really surprised me is someone who had so much opportunities, Senga, employed them all to give back again and to give opportunities. But I've seen so many who don't, specifically women. Yeah, I had a very bad experience, some good, but some very bad experiences. And that requires psychological analysis. I'm talking to my other daughter, how do we deal with that? What are they afraid of? You know, why they are all it's instilled in our psyche that you don't allow competition so that your chances are higher. What happens there so that I can deal with it? I can treat it because I see it here. I see, you know, I've given you all, it's mostly women here. And when we're let's not get what are you worried about? Give her the chance. But we go back and fall into this closed, I don't want to open the doors, or while others do. But it hasn't been for me a straightforward process of you give, you open doors, you know, that means everybody you work with will do the same. That's not.
Right,
You still
right.
struggle, you still struggle with that, you still struggle and convincing people, not everyone, of course, as long as you're able to rally around you and with you, a critical mass of team members. That's why this organization succeeded, but it took a long, 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 long time to ensure you got the right leadership with you. Or like with Bank of Palestine, it clicks. We are aligned, you know, me and the chairman. Okay, amazing. And he goes, here is the platform of a bank. Do whatever you want. And
Yeah.
like, what? Do whatever you want, Lena. I love what you're doing outside. Take this platform with all its resources. I'm aligned. Hmm. Those are the opportunities others have, don't necessarily utilize. I can say I utilized to the fullest, to the point of abusing. Like Hashim tells me, like the chairman. Enough is enough. Well, you open the door, and then you're powerful enough. You go into a space that you're not aligned, and you can change it. But you're powerful enough to become the decision maker or part of the decision making. Never easy. And when I went to the third platform, the investment fund, the sovereign fund, the only woman on the board, literally, Marisha, literally, a year nobody asked me a question. I like would want to say something, nobody would see my hand. A year. It's like, I have something to say, maybe, and then you become silent because you become invisible, or you are invisible actually. But you crawl out of your corner and you get disappointed once or twice or 10 times, but there is a point of magic where that commitment, that ability to not to waver or like, okay, khalas, I'm tired, at it, then the impact starts showing, and then they want to ride the wave, which is great. Ride the wave, my friends. Who cares? And then you are able to have deeper impact, wider impact. It's gradual, it's step by step, it's adopting the mind that Greek Egyptian logo, or uh, he told me once he made me cry so much, or I was crying so much, and he walked into the office and he said, Lana, what? You know, when somebody kicks you in the ass, that's how he used to talk, kicks you on the ass, what happens? I'm like, you're kicked on. No, you fall. And where do you fall? Forward. You don't fall backward. The trick is you get up again. Then you'll discover your steps, 2 steps ahead of everybody.
I never heard that before. That's a good one.
It's a good one.
And you're twice as likely to get up again, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, you've been
Definitely.
there.
It's just like, and I'm like, and I stopped crying that day. And I went home and I said, this is good. Abu George, I used to call him Abu George, Where did he come up with that one? True. So every time I get, it's called in Arabic shalloot, when somebody kicks you on the ass, and every time I go like, okay, now I just need to get up and look back at all the ones who are still behind me and move forward. So not an easy trajectory, and it takes a lot
It's
of
not
you.
easy for people to hear what you're saying because it requires a level of, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but not only self confidence in your worth and your value as a human being and all the skills you have, but the patience, the perseverance, the trust in the universe, the faith that whatever needs to emerge and the time will come when it comes, and you just keep going, right? It's like keep calm and carry on. That
Even after the biggest hits, like when my mother was killed, I thought it's the end of the road. خلاص. This is it. You just go under so deep. It took literally 3 days. Yeah, I can't say. Probably too early, probably not the way, probably that's part of the trauma I haven't dealt with, or the grief I haven't dealt with. I moved to action. But I cannot say that the action and the hard work and the re-engagement and doesn't help you deal with the grief, and because you're continuing her legacy or my parents' legacy and what they taught us and so on. But it's not a straightforward thing. You fall, you get fall, fell. You go into the depression, disbelief, the disbelief that you in our context, these are stories I said at panels, but I heard about them. But it's not your own story. When it's your own story, it's just like it happens to you. You never think it will happen to you. You think you're the storyteller, you're the advocator, and suddenly it's you. It's you in the harshest, most unexplainable way in the world. This is not a fight that, okay, my father is in the army or my mother is in the. It's just like, what? Why? What happened? What? That much hate. And then you go through a process of 11 years of court, taking the state of Israel to court. Imagine 11 years of that. And how much you just mature, you come to terms with the fact there are intentions and there is commitment, there is hard work, but not necessarily ability all the time to win. That's another thing. The evil forces are so strong, but at least you define your win differently. You define your win by the fact that not you just survived, but you thrived as a service provider, as a giver, as a contributor to this community, and so they didn't kill your spirit. And then you win. You stayed true to your values, your humanity, while the intention was to take that away from you so that you're literally a zombie. But when that doesn't happen, you say, I won against all of these forces of evil because I'm still a good person inside and I'm still trying to make this world a better one. And hopefully, maybe that will change one person that won't kill somebody else's mother. I don't know. But that's why now it's tough because living after that personal trauma in a collective massacre and genocide, you need quiet time to rethink. So you're coming at a time when this quiet time, is it, I don't now today have it in me except to as you said, focus on the self and the family, the thing you can control. The ugliness out there is so big that as a human being, even your psyche cannot yet deal with it. And you need help to deal with. How do you train yourself to deal with, not accept, to survive a genocide of this sort, of this? Another discussion, because there's a lot still to come to terms with. And the next couple of years, if this ends, God help us and help whoever committed it. How they're going to live themselves. The ones I read about 3 days ago, that some of these Israeli soldiers have been paid 5,000 shekels for every killing, huh? For the people who are coming to get, this is Haaretz reporting that I read and I was like, okay, this cannot be true. Even I, as a Palestinian, turned out to be true. So people who try to get aid from this horrific US and Israeli structure have been already 1,000 have been killed or so, trying to get food for their families. So you see this level of ugliness that your psyche is, you just want to crawl under the ground and just please let this stuff be true. So time to reckon and understand and analyze and reflect and see. God knows what's going to come out of it, but I assure you, like my husband told me this morning, what's going to come out of it is with 2 or 3 new initiatives that will keep you extremely busy. Like, no, there will be time to have coffee with my friends and see my garage. We'll
And
see,
that
he
too,
said. We'll see.
and that too, and that too.
Come.
Lana, I have to ask you one more question because you mentioned God a couple of times, but clearly your biggest influence were the actions and the deeds of
Yes.
people along the way and your own deeds, living your values. So what is the role for those of us who don't have those role models, who didn't grow up with those values? What you mentioned that it's not from education, but is there a role of some kind for spiritual education, religious education, not in a school, not with a teacher, but the writings, the teachings, if one was to turn to them,
Yes.
is that kind of a data set that young people can avail of? Maybe who have no exposure to any of this, right? What do you see there in terms of connecting to that infinite maybe side of themselves, but through this other language or through this, other influence that's not in their day to day? Do you have any opinions or thoughts about that?
Personally, I struggle a lot with religion because I grew up at that time when still religion was more spiritual in our, was more about the good in it. All kinds of religions, really, they're amazing. I mean, whatever religions came, at the time they came, I'm sure it was just amazing impact on the communities, and it changed and lives and so on. The connection with the divine, something bigger, but that for me has not been through personally through any script. It's just me and whatever. The scripted, structured, then, in my opinion, institutionalized and then politicized religion, not for me. I couldn't. Under all circumstances. There is no way I can link this with that, which I'm unable. For me, I read the Quran. I don't know if I ever shared that my first husband was Christian, another big out of the box thing. And so I needed to learn more about Christianity. His family was very well, my ex-mother-in-law conversed with the Pope regularly. I mean, that kind of elite Christian family in Palestine, and so I learned about that. I raised my two daughters, one daughter as a Christian, respecting her father's religion, and because why I managed to do that, because I saw the spirituality in them, and it's the same. I couldn't find any difference. And that's how I convinced my father I was going to marry a Christian, because he almost killed himself for 3 seconds and then was like, okay. What a liberal man. How did he even agree to that? I mean, the community went up in arms. Everybody was told. My family sent delegations to talk to him. He's the eldest in the family, so he had the final say. What? Lana, your only daughter, the engineer, our pride from the village. Gonna marry a Christian musician? Two things. Christian musician. Didn't go. Ah! But
I
I
see
told,
it very clearly.
you see it, huh?
I see it.
Yeah. But literally, I think when I talked to him and he said, convince your grandfather too, I told my grandfather, listen, Sido, what did you teach me? Okay. 1, 2, 3. I find them here and I find them here. It's just how they produce the thing. Different. He laughed and he said, just get him to say, Satana la ilaha illallah in front of people, and okay, we can do that. We're both. So what I'm trying to say, yani, spirituality is so important, but you decide how and with whom you link, as long as it is a higher level than the irrelevant things that make us do bad. Literally, I mean, literally, look at every religion. They say the same thing. Be good, be nice, be honest, be this, be good to your neighbor, be good to this. What the hell? What happened? How did we end up here? No, we're the elites. We got chosen. We should have only Islam. We should have only Judaism. Not anything other than that, you don't belong. Should die. You don't exist. You're not here. That's not the religion. But I don't blame the religion. I blame, of course, whoever used and abused and over the past centuries. When I talk to the youth here, they ask me, because I don't cover, okay. And I'm like, "Lana, are you religious? Do you believe in God?" Of course I do. Which God? Are you Muslim? Are you Muslim? Impossible that you're a Muslim. Yes, I grew up as a Muslim. You observe? Yes, I observe. What do you observe? Do you fast? No. Do you pray? Not the way you pray. It's like everybody's in shock. But then you're not a Muslim. Who cares? And suddenly they start thinking like, am I a good person? They say, yes, very. Do you respect me? Yes, very. Do you think I'm doing anything wrong? Oh, no, we wish we are you. So what does it matter for you if I identify as this or that? I identify as a good person who believes in the divine and doing good. Khalas, enough. Because now here in our culture, if you're not covered and you go, it's like,
But
don't
you're a
ask me.
beautiful role model for how it's not prescriptive.
Exactly. Exactly. And you don't know how many of these covered ladies are different. They're just social pressure and so on. In any case, it's a non-issue for me. They can be covered and uncovered. Actually, the most active
Yeah,
here.
sure.
Non-issue. But the idea is, for me, I wish we all go back to spirituality. We can identify with whatever religion. That's the frame. But